Right, I've been forced to do it. I'm making one of those videos slagging my own car off like every other YouTuber, and I'm blaming Boris, because if he hadn't put us in lockdown again, I'd have never had to resort to doing this. I had other videos planned, Bojo, you better not be thinking of dragging this lockdown out and all. But in all seriousness, as much as I love my M140i, it's not perfect. I mean, what car is? So I'm going to be taking you through a few things that I'd change in my BM, some which I can potentially sort out in the future, and others that I'll just have to get over and learn to live with. Let's get into it. Now, I am well aware that all of these things I'm about to moan about are probably going to make me sound like a right spoiled brat. They are just first world problems at the end of the day, but hopefully this video will make it back to the BMW Hauptsitz and they'll fix all of the little gripes I have with the car, because I don't just think it's one northern lad they'll be keeping happy, but a lot of you guys as well. To be fair, my neighbours would be over the moon if they sorted the first thing out on this list, because if you haven't guessed it already, I'm talking about the cold starts. Now, it's definitely my fault for making this sound a lot louder than normal. I cut the resonators out and I start the car up about 2 foot away from a brick wall at 5:30 every morning, so that just amplifies the sound even more. However, the standard car still blurts out a deep bassy tone for the first 15 seconds or so every time you switch it on, even when it's warm. Now, I totally understand the reasons why we have cold starts in the first place, and I'll link an article in the description describing what they're for if you need to have a read up on it yourself. But this is something that you can have coded out, and that's definitely the route that I'm going to be taking in the future. Something that you can't code out though is that ancient interior. This is one of the compromises I had to make when buying the 140 because it's just nowhere near as nice as some of the other modern hot hatches. They have updated it here and there since 2012, but there hasn't been any drastic improvements, and you know, it might just be my taste, but I think it's just a little bit dull, which is why when I was looking for one, I had to have as many options in the cab as possible. To be fair to them, they've made some big changes with the new M140i, but would you take a downgrade in performance for a slightly nicer place to sit? Maybe not. There are another couple of features inside the car that wind me up too. Every time I try to program a destination into the sat-nav, it's like I'm doing a cryptic task on the Crystal Maze, and it takes me 4 or 5 attempts before I give up and just use Google Maps. And the other thing is, every time I want to demist the windscreen, the fans come on full whack, so you have to manually knock them right down. See? I told you there were first world problems, didn't I? Now, the other day was the first time I actually needed to use my fog light since picking the car up, and as most of you will know, you don't actually have any on the front end, so you just have to make do with your dip beam. The black trim where they usually are in, say, a 120D have been replaced with one blank piece and a honeycomb vent covering the charge cooler on the other side. It's not the end of the world. They aren't something that you need to use every day, but it's just kind of weird that they didn't manage to integrate them somewhere else on the front end of the vehicle. Another thing that's a bit of a pain in the arse is the size of the fuel tank. Don't get me wrong, it's plenty big enough if you were driving something with the efficiency of, say, Hyundai i10, but when you're giving the car a boot full and your MPG is in the low single figures, you'll run out of V-power sharpish. Not gonna lie, it does have its perks. I'm on first name terms with most of the cashiers at our local petrol station now, which means I get a free Twix every time I go to fill up. But it would have been nicer if they could have stuck a 70-litre tank in there, even if it did mean having to compromise a little bit of space elsewhere. In my last M140i video, the one about all the cheapish mods, I mentioned that I didn't like the look of the standard diffuser, and that's another thing that's going to make this list. Personally, I think it looks whack, and it would have been so much better if BMW decided to paint it gloss black in the first place. I'll link that vid at the end of this one if you want to check out other alternatives to that standard crappy grey panel. Yeah, can you tell I'm not the biggest fan of it? Last and definitely least is the resetting of the driving modes. Why does it require me to put it in Sport Plus every single time I turn the car on? Just stay in that mode, goddammit! If I want to be in comfort, I'll tell you, but I'd rather have pops and bangs all the time and go sideways around corners because, well, I'm a knob. Luckily, this is another thing that you can code out, or code in, depending on how you look at it, but this is something that I'll definitely be able to fix later on down the line. But I have just bought a house, so I don't know when that's going to be happening. Anyhow, that's enough from me. Big thanks to everyone who's subbed to the channel recently off the back of all these BMW videos, it is very much appreciated. And make sure to tune into the next one, because there's going to be a Christmas giveaway. Ooh, exciting. Remember to drop me a like if you enjoyed this one, and leave me a comment if there's something that you think I've missed. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!